The term tofu dreg was first coined by former Chinese Premier Zhu Rongji. After inspecting the collapse of flood walls in a southern city in 1998, he angrily criticized the structure as a tofu dreg project when asked about the cause of the failure. Since then, the term tofu dreg construction has frequently appeared in major Chinese media and has gradually become well known. This video will provide us with a comprehensive look at high-quality bridges from ancient and modern times and compare them with the countless shoddy, dangerous, and collapsing tofu dreg structures under the CCP's rule. Let's take a look at these bridges first. Let's start with a bridge built during the Sui dynasty, the Zhaozhou Bridge. Designed and constructed by the famous craftsman Li Chun, it is approximately 1,400 years old. The Zhongshan Iron Bridge over the Yellow River in Lanzhou was built in 1909 by the German Tailai Company. The steel and cement were both imported from Germany, and it is still in use 110 years later. The warranty period of the bridge was 80 years. After the warranty of the Iron Bridge expired in 1989, the German parties wrote to the Lanzhou municipal government to inquire about the status of the bridge and noted that the contract had expired. The Luoyang Bridge, formerly known as Wanyan Bridge, was overseen by Kai Xiang, a native of Putian and governor of Quanzhou, during the Northern Song dynasty. From the 5th year of Huang Yu, 1053 AD, to the 4th year of Jia Yu, 1059 AD, it took 7 years and 14 million taels of silver to build this large stone bridge that spanned the river and connected to the sea. According to historical records, when the bridge was first built, it was 360 feet long and 15 feet wide, with warrior statues standing on both sides. The bridge construction project was huge in scale, with superb structural technology, making it famous worldwide. The Nanjing Yangtze River Bridge was completed and ready for inspection. General Xu Xiu, then the commander of the Nanjing military region, wanted to test whether the bridge could withstand the rigors of war. With the approval of the headquarters, at about 8 o'clock on September 26, 1968, more than 80 tanks and over 60 vehicles of various types crossed the bridge in a column. Seeing the white marks left by the tracks, Commander Xu laughed and said, "It's done." And now we see modern bridges costing hundreds of millions of dollars built under the CCP. The Yangmingtan Bridge, which cost 1.8 billion yuan, about 252 million USD to build, was opened to traffic less than a year ago. However, the steel bars and concrete have already deteriorated into tofu dregs. 4 trucks rushed across it, causing the bridge to collapse, destroying vehicles and killing people. The scene was horrific. On January 4, 1999, the Chongqing-Qijiang Rainbow Bridge suddenly collapsed, leaving only the east and west bridge piers standing. The accident resulted in 40 deaths and 14 injuries. The bridge had been built in February 1996. Many young people may not even know that such a serious casualty incident occurred. At the site of the Tianjin-Jinan Expressway ramp bridge collapse, it was demolished before anyone else could take action. A flyover under demolition on Section 02 of Daisheng East Road in Hangzhou suddenly collapsed, causing 1 death and 3 injuries. Even more shocking was that just 3 days before the incident, hundreds of people were observing the construction site, which had been hailed as a model and example of safe construction in the city. The Gongguan Bridge in Wuyishan, Fujian, also collapsed. Many people were injured and killed in this accident. The construction quality was extremely poor, and most of the construction costs had been embezzled. These typical real-life examples provide us with a panoramic view of the construction sector in China. Large civil works should be carried out with great care and quality to ensure the safety of the people. On the contrary, officials have embezzled most of the project's funds, leaving only a small amount to create tofu dreg projects that endanger the people of the mainland. This problem will never be solved as long as the CCP remains in power. Tofu construction in China, Foshan building shakes. Buildings in Wuhan are shaking too. Construction projects in China are nicknamed tofu by the people. Tofu projects and buildings have mushroomed under the CCP regime due to rampant corruption among officials and cadres. Corruption permeates from top to bottom, even in the construction sector, leading to the use of substandard materials, steel and cement. As a result, these constructions are of poor quality, with crumbling walls made of sand, concrete without reinforcement, and buildings that are very easy to collapse when unexpected incidents occur. Many cases of residential buildings and large traffic bridges collapsing have occurred in the mainland, causing significant loss of life. The number of such incidents increases every year, but the CCP regime continues to ignore this problem. China's shoddy construction projects are becoming more and more bizarre. In addition to the already common occurrences of building collapses, bridge collapses, and road collapses, the phenomenon of shaking buildings has recently appeared. On June 25th, the official website of the Housing, Urban Rural Development, and Water Affairs Bureau of Changchun District, Foshan City, Guangdong Province, issued a situation report stating that at about 15 hours on June 24th, 2024, Block A of Vanke Financial Center in Changchun District shook slightly, and some people inside the building evacuated downstairs. After a preliminary investigation by experts, no damage to the main structure of the building, cracking of the surrounding site, or falling off of the curtain wall panels was found. Video posted online showed the high-rise building of Foshan Vanke Financial Center shaking violently. The footage showed that a high-rise building in the center of the city kept swaying, and employees inside fled downstairs to the open area below. Someone said, "The whole building is shaking." In another scene, a potted plant placed on an employee's desk is seen shaking up and down, left and right. The female employee said, "There's an earthquake. It keeps shaking. Look, oh, it's shaking so hard." No, it's the entire foundation shaking. However, Chinese media reported that the surrounding buildings of Tower A of the financial center did not shake, and people in Towers B and C of the nearby financial center within 100 meters also said they did not feel any obvious vibrations. Relevant staff from the Seismological Bureau even said that no earthquake occurred in Foshan and surrounding areas around 1530. Someone left a message on Weibo and said, "Wasn't the damping adjusted? I remember this happened in Shenzhen a few years ago. The Shenzhen Seg Plaza building also shook like this last time, and then part of the building on the roof was demolished. There have been road collapses here before." However, some people said, it hints at a financial earthquake. Coincidentally, in addition to the phenomenon of swaying in the Vanke building in Foshan, there was also a phenomenon of swaying in a high-rise building as far away as Wuhan. On June 23rd, a high-rise residential building in Wuhan swayed inexplicably in the wind. The video posted online shows a building swaying left and right together with a nearby tree, and there is relative back-and-forth movement between two unit buildings. However, no residents were seen outside the building. Some netizens left comments under a related video on social media. How to deal with so much construction waste? Guangzhou has just collapsed, and the buildings are shaking again. Although it has nothing to do with me, I really can't stand it. On June 21st, a residential building suddenly collapsed on Tianfu Road, Tianhe District, Guangzhou. Video footage showed that the collapsed stairs squeezed the exposed steel bars together, and the scene was in chaos. Heart-wrenching cries were also heard in the video. A man said, "Someone is injured in the rubble. Call for help immediately." China's construction crisis, a catastrophic saga of tofu buildings and substandard safety.
The quality and durability of commercial housing in China has come under scrutiny lately. Economist Ma Guangyuan claimed that due to poor construction standards and materials, most commercial housing built in China since 2000 will require major repairs within 30 years. In the Chinese real estate market, the majority of houses are substandard, especially those built after 2015. Many ordinary citizens have purchased houses at high prices but of low quality. Therefore, when people talk about what will happen after 70 years, you don't even need to consider the 70-year issue. It would be surprising if these houses could last for 70 years. That would be extremely conscientious. In my opinion, they may not even last for 70 years. Major renovations may be required after 30 years, and there may be no way to address the issues effectively. He has all the reasons to make this statement. Not only that, Chinese infrastructure is also terrible in terms of quality. Ma Guangyuan cites shoddy foundations, unqualified wall materials, and profit-driven developers cutting corners after 2000. Defects stay hidden initially. Chinese also lack a maintenance mindset, quickening deterioration. Surveillance video. A house collapsed in Wenzhou, killing 4 people. Some people ran to escape the moment it collapsed. A house collapsed near a market in Zhanghai District, Jiangmen, Guangdong. A gas explosion caused the building to collapse in a community in Tianjin. If a gas explosion in a room can cause this much damage, we have to question the quality of the house. Since 2000, surging prices made real estate seem hugely profitable. Construction, however, takes 2 to 3 years minimum, challenging quality control when rushing for buyers. Eager owners often accept flawed units just to gain deeds quickly. As prices climbed, some developers focused more on margins than standards, knowing defects get missed during resales. Buyers have little leverage, even if dissatisfied, as long as problems seem minor. Collapsing buildings is really not a rare sight in China. The slope protection of Yixin community in Sichuan collapsed, causing serious damage to the building. The quality of China's building and infrastructure is so bad that even rain can cause collapse. The crisis of substandard construction quality in China's resettlement housing and infrastructure projects. Systemic problems in the Chinese construction industry are deeply rooted and multifaceted, manifesting themselves prominently through rampant subcontracting issues and pervasive corruption. A stark indication of the subcontracting prevalence is that, as per Asian Journal of German and European Studies, over 90% of the construction projects in China involve subcontracting, which is a specific characteristic of the market in the country. This extensive use of layered subcontracting frays accountability and severely reduces profit margins at each level, creating a cascade of financial pressure that often culminates in compromising construction quality and safety. A 5-story building under construction in rural Yulin was broken, and the load-bearing wall collapsed. Unknown casualties after building collapse in Shenzhen. A building under construction in Shengxi Huadu collapsed, and firefighters rushed to the scene to rescue. By the time the work trickles down to the final tier of subcontractors, who are typically tasked with the actual construction work, the available profits have been so diminished that these entities are frequently driven to employ cost-cutting measures. Survivors of the Xinjia Hotel collapse in Quanzhou, Fujian. The house collapsed while they were lying down playing games. An old building collapsed in Changchun. The office building of Baicheng Elephant Credit Union collapsed. In 2022, there were around 143,446 construction enterprises in China, but this figure doesn't include the numerous subcontractors further down the hierarchy. Such entities often hire unskilled workers, many of whom are migrants lacking proper training and experience, to maintain profitability in the face of shrinking margins. The house of an elderly man living alone collapsed, and his family members came to accidentally take a breathtaking scene: a brush with death. A building under construction in Guangdong collapsed, killing 2 and injuring 3. Insiders: there were workers working on the site when the collapse occurred. A building suddenly collapsed in Haining, Zhejiang. A large amount of smoke and dust rose from the scene. Some people were injured and sent to hospital. Simultaneously, there is a propensity to procure substandard building materials, which poses a risk to structural integrity and safety post-construction, potentially jeopardizing the outputs valued at over 31 trillion yuan in 2022, a figure that has nearly doubled from a decade ago. Zhongshan Xiaolan responded to the 45-degree collapse of the hotel porch. No casualties. A renovated building in Shanghai collapsed, and many workers were buried at the scene. Some were rescued. The issue of subcontracting is exacerbated by corruption and bribery, which act as catalysts for the industry's deviation from established construction norms and regulations. Instances of bribery are not just incidental. They often systematically pervade every phase of the construction process, from securing bids to passing inspections. This deeply entrenched corruption undermines institutions, leading to widespread non-compliance with quality standards, which is dangerous considering the construction industry accounts for about 7% of China's GDP. A metal building suddenly collapsed in Baiyun, Guangzhou, and 2 people were rescued. An apartment building in Qinhuai District, Nanjing, partially collapsed, and the ground was covered with broken tiles and debris. A total of 5 people were at the scene and 3 were rescued. Furthermore, corruption and the resultant substandard practices have broad market implications. They distort market dynamics and create unfair competition, where honest firms are either compelled to follow suit or are pushed out by less ethical entities. The lack of regulation and oversight enables a culture of corruption and systemic failure to enforce standards, ultimately degrading the international reputation of China's construction sector and eroding public trust. A collapse at a construction site in Wuhan killed 6 people and injured 5 others. A renovated building in Shanghai collapsed and more than 20 people were trapped. A supermarket collapsed in Jimusi. Residents said it was being renovated when the incident occurred. The interplay of extensive subcontracting and endemic corruption has created systemic vulnerabilities in the construction industry, resonating through the economic and social strata. To resolve these issues, it will require reform of legal frameworks and industry practices, emphasizing transparency, strong supervisory mechanisms, and punitive measures for non-compliance. Stakeholders across the sector, including government regulators, contractors, and consumer advocates, must collaborate to dismantle the structures that allow for corrupt practices. Only through such sustained, data-informed efforts can the integrity of China's construction industry be restored to ensure it meets global quality and safety standards, supporting the nation's rapid urbanization and growth in a sustainable manner. A park promenade in Jian completely collapsed, and residents were buried while enjoying the shade. At least 1 person died and 1 was injured. A worker was buried when a wall collapsed at a construction site in Nanchong, Sichuan. Fire emergency rescue.
China's Tofu dregs buildings exposed in Typhoon Yagi, with more than 100 casualties. Yagi swept away the balcony windows, and a photo of a Hainan girl sitting on an 18th floor balcony went viral. the global technology supply chain has entered the second stage of withdrawal from China. Typhoon Yagi, the 11th typhoon this year, made landfall in Wenchang, Hainan, on the afternoon of September 6th, becoming the second strongest typhoon to hit China since the founding of the Communist Party of China 75 years ago. It hit Hainan hard, and officials reported more than 100 casualties. Typhoon Yagi exposed the Tofu dregs buildings in China. According to videos, many balconies and windowsills of residential buildings were completely swept away, and windows shattered. The scene was horrifying. Many mainland netizens left comments, cursing and pointing out that the typhoon had become a mirror for shoddy construction projects. Typhoon Yagi, the second strongest typhoon since the founding of the Communist Party, also exposed shoddy buildings. According to numerous videos on the X platform, after Typhoon Yagi landed on Hainan Island on the 6th, the storm not only caused heavy casualties, but also destroyed many residential high-rise buildings. Items such as balconies, windows, and iron railings were blown away, glass shattered, and even some residents' furniture disappeared. Some houses even lost their walls, roofs, and doors. People were terrified, screaming and clinging to walls to avoid being blown away by the storm. Wherever the storm went, chaos followed, with horrifying scenes everywhere. Many netizens commented that this typhoon was like a magic mirror, exposing China's Tofu projects. Some mocked, "What's the point of quickly building paper-thin high-rises? Cutting corners has become the pride of the Chinese people." Others added, "It's not that Yagi is so strong, but that the houses built by animals are too weak." The CCP allocated a total of 200 million yuan in disaster relief to Hainan and Guangdong provinces, which was met with ridicule from netizens. Xinhua News Agency reported that on the 7th, China's National Development and Reform Commission issued a statement announcing, "The National Development and Reform Commission urgently allocated 200 million yuan, about $28 million US, from the central budget to support the emergency recovery in Hainan and Guangdong, focusing on the reconstruction of damaged roads, bridges, water conservancy embankments, schools, hospitals, and other infrastructure and public facilities in the disaster area to restore normal production and living conditions as soon as possible." In response, netizen Irma G remarked, "Tens of thousands of people have lost their homes, farmland has been destroyed, and lives are in jeopardy. Yet the central government only allocated 200 million yuan for post-disaster recovery. This insignificant amount is an insult compared to the actual needs. The central government's aid to Africa reaches as high as 360 billion yuan. Some netizens mocked, 200 million is just like throwing a few coins to beggars. Another said, "You are the leeks of the human field, to be exploited and harvested. Now we have to spend money to help you with disaster recovery, so bow down and be grateful. The 200 million budget will probably amount to just 2 yuan per person in Hainan. We gave 360 billion yuan to Africa, but only 200 million yuan for the typhoon disaster in Hainan and Guangdong. Is this how humans behave? This is inhumane." Typhoon Yagi blew off, many wind turbines costing tens of millions. According to First Financial News, Typhoon Yagi damaged many wind turbines in a wind farm along the coast of Mulan Bay, in Wenchang, Hainan. A person in the wind power industry stated that the total cost of a 6.25 megawatt typhoon-resistant wind turbine exceeds 10 million yuan. According to a representative from Hainan company of Huaneng Group, around 5 or 6 wind turbines were broken by the typhoon. The project is still under expansion and has not yet generated electricity. A mainland netizen commented, "Haiku Wenchang is really unlucky. They just replaced the smaller units with 6.25 megawatt ones, and the 1.5 megawatt turbines were basically blown off. The components inside the ones that survived are probably unusable. What a pity." Another added, "The instantaneous wind speed of Typhoon Yagi reached 83.2 meters per second, which is far beyond the design limits of current wind turbines. The destructive power is terrifying." They also noted, "Although there are typhoons every year, this is the only one that has really affected wind turbines." Yagi swept away the balcony windows, and a photo of a Hainan girl sitting on an 18th floor balcony went viral. Recently, a photo of a Hainan girl sitting on a frameless balcony went viral on the internet, attracting widespread attention. At 16:20 on September 6th, Typhoon Yagi made landfall in Wencheng, Hainan. When it hit, the maximum wind force near the center was over level 17, 62 meters per second. The area experienced violent storms and heavy rain, with incredible power. In an instant, many glass doors and windows of high-rise balconies were blown off, creating hazards everywhere. One girl living on the 18th floor moved a chair to sit on the balcony and gaze into the distance, even though the windows and guardrails of the balcony had been blown away. This photo quickly went viral on the internet. On September 8th, the person involved, Xiao Chen, told Upstream News, "It happened at my home. I am just a junior high school student, living on the 18th floor. It occurred around 6 p.m. on September 6th. The wind was very strong at the time, and the entire building was shaking. The balcony frame of the master bedroom was blown away." After the typhoon, Xiao Chen's mother posted a video titled, "Balcony Escaped in the Typhoon" on social media, saying, "I didn't expect this photo to become so popular. The picture shows my daughter, and the video captures clips of the balcony flying away." The uploaded video shows that Xiao Chen's master bedroom balcony was originally equipped with anti-theft nets and windows. As the wind grew stronger, the balcony windows and guardrails were eventually blown away. On September 7th, Xiao Chen moved a reclining chair to sit on the balcony to rest, and her mother took a photo of her. Xiao Chen said, "I was sitting on the master bedroom balcony, and my mother was on the living room balcony, so she took the picture. The two balconies were on the same side, and posted it on WeChat Moments. I didn't expect it to go viral." Xiao Chen added that not only her family but also her neighbors suffered heavy losses. Although the windows of the apartments upstairs and downstairs remained, the glass was also shattered. Now, they need to contact someone to redecorate. Xiao Chen told the Beijing News that the typhoon was very strong at the time, and her whole family took shelter in the south-facing room. Regarding her calm appearance while sitting on the balcony, Xiao Chen admitted that she was very worried and scared when the typhoon hit. "At the time, we moved everything to the south-facing room. But the most terrifying moments had already passed. As long as everyone was safe, I felt relatively calm afterward." Mainland netizens commented, "It's so scary. That's too dangerous. Why do I feel she's sitting there in harm's way? It's the 18th floor. My legs started shaking just looking at the photo. I think it's better not to use large areas of glass to enclose balconies. It's okay to lose a few floors, but hers is completely gone." The global technology supply chain has entered the second stage of withdrawal from China. Multinational technology companies continue to withdraw from China. In addition to geopolitical factors, such as rising tensions between the United States and China, other key reasons include the Chinese Communist Party's increasing control over society and businesses, and the continued downturn of the Chinese economy. According to a recent report from S&P, the global technology supply chain's exit from China is ongoing and has now entered an irreversible second stage. This conclusion was presented in the latest market analysis report by Clifford Kurtz, chief credit analyst at S&P. The report states that downstream electronic manufacturing service EMS companies such as Foxconn, a subsidiary of Hon Hai, began shifting their investments from China to countries like Vietnam and India during the first stage of this withdrawal, which is considered largely completed. In the second stage, technology companies are moving their midstream production capacity away from China. This involves relocating intermediate processes, such as the production and assembly of core components. Since this requires substantial investment in factories and equipment, reversing these moves will be difficult once completed. Nevertheless, technology companies remain committed to their exit from China. The report highlights that to mitigate geopolitical risks and avoid potential disruptions to key supply chains, punitive tariffs, or other issues related to U.S.-China tensions, many tech companies are opting for a geographically more dispersed production layout. It is projected that between 2024 and 2026, suppliers of technology hardware, such as passive components, power electronics, motors, connectors, sensors, printed circuit boards, and outsourced semiconductor assembly and testing services, may accelerate their investments in production facilities outside China. The fixed asset exposure of 14 midstream technology companies, tracked by S&P, has already decreased from a peak of 30% in 2021 to 26% in 2023. Over half of these companies' new investments in the past 2 years have been directed toward regions such as the Americas, the European Union, and parts of Asia, including Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, and India. S&P concludes that this is just the beginning. Capital expenditure plans disclosed by major technology hardware companies for 2024 suggest that the trend toward supply chain diversification will continue. Closure of over 1 million bathhouses. Wenzhou foreign trade factories unable to pay wages.
The government has no more fiscal resources. The wealthiest regions in the Yangtze River Delta and Pearl River Delta are running out of money. Over 1 million bathing centers have gone silent, and Wenzhou's foreign trade factories can't afford to pay wages. New energy headquarters are overgrown with weeds, and recent graduates with master's degrees struggle to find jobs. Public servants and teachers face widespread salary cuts and layoffs. In 2024, China's minimum wage standard is 1,580 yuan, with a total social debt exceeding 65 trillion yuan, more than 5 times the entire Chinese GDP. Let me tell you a cruel truth about Wenzhou now. You might find it hard to believe that many Wenzhou residents, especially business owners, are living in extremely difficult conditions. Unlike previous years, when factories were busiest at this time, it's like filling bags with money at the end of the year. This year is different. It's not because there are no orders, it's because many factories dare not take orders. In our current shoe business, we might have to wait for 3 months or even more exaggeratedly, 6 months to receive payment. Before the Chinese New Year, we can't get the money, but we still have to pay our workers' salaries, settle payments to suppliers, and cover production costs. If we don't pay utilities, the landlord will immediately cut them off, and if we don't pay rent, we'll be evicted. So, it's really tough. We can't take big orders now, and even small orders are risky because of the poor market conditions. If we encounter a customer who disappears without paying, we would end up working for nothing in a year. That's why moving forward feels like stepping into an abyss, and stepping back feels like facing a cliff. It's really challenging. I went for 3 job interviews yesterday, and oh my, I couldn't believe how low their salaries were. It felt like a violation of labor laws. The first interview was at Lukin Coffee, and I had asked in advance through WeChat. Lukin Coffee pays 8 yuan per hour for the first 15 days. Is there anyone paid lower than us in this area? It's 8 yuan per hour for the first 15 days. Then, if you pass the barista certification, it's 15 yuan per hour. If you don't pass, it's 12 yuan per hour. In simple terms, I asked in the store, and it's around 2,000 yuan for the first month, 2,700 yuan for the second month, and from the third month onwards, it's a basic salary plus performance pay. I considered it for a moment and went for the interview. The next job was at a convenience store. For convenience stores, they calculate the pay by day. It's 60 yuan for a day's work, and how long is a shift? 9 hours. Also, the morning shift starts at 7 a.m. I haven't woken up at 7 a.m. since I was preparing for the postgraduate entrance exam. Now, just for 60 yuan, I have to start work at 7 a.m., which means I have to wake up at 6 a.m. I can't believe how crazy this is. It's really tough to run a fish market, extremely challenging. There's no business at the fish market. We don't want to just stay flat, and we don't want to lie down and win either. But we can't get it rolling. Look, there's not a single customer. Can I go out on the street to attract people? You see, running a fish market is truly not easy. The government lacks an alternative fiscal option. Even in affluent regions like the Yangtze River Delta and the Pearl River Delta, many government officials complain about the lack of funds, unable to pay salaries. You can imagine the situation. In places like Shunde and Nanhai in the Pearl River Delta, including the Jiangsu-Zhejiang region, they are unable to pay salaries. Civil servants are facing pay cuts, and teachers are dealing with salary reductions and subsidies. What's the reason behind all this? The inability to achieve an 8-hour workday in 5 days, despite being a violation of labor laws, continues with constant overtime. The reason is simple: a significant portion of employment in China relies on low-end manufacturing industries with extremely low basic salaries ranging from 1580 yuan to 2,580 yuan. Considering the expenses of buying a car, a house, supporting a family, and even affording meals, many people choose voluntary overtime as they dare not offend these companies. The simple reason is that the high-end sector hasn't fully developed, lacking pricing power. It's unable to rely on technology or patents to make money. Faced with the choice between two evils, companies are forced to continue providing employment opportunities without hiring additional staff. These companies depend on squeezing surplus labor and value to generate profits. If the situation were to be properly regulated, these companies might not even have profits, and they might relocate to areas with higher profits, attracting even lower wage workers. This is why China's touted demographic dividend is based on the availability of cheap labor. A master's graduate in liberal arts criticized low salaries at job fairs, with an average wage of only 4,000 yuan. This became a trending topic on Chinese social media. Some people were angry, considering it a waste of talent for graduates from top universities to earn the same as security guards. Others argued that these students were too picky and unwilling to endure hardships. To discuss things objectively, China has around 50 million companies, with only about 5,000 listed companies. After excluding a few 100,000 state-owned enterprises, the remaining 99% are small and medium-sized enterprises, providing 80% of employment opportunities. Most of these SMEs have low technical barriers, so they don't require high academic qualifications and can't afford high salaries. They seek individuals who are inexpensive, reliable, and willing to work hard. For young people, a fresh graduate's monthly salary of 6,000 yuan to 7,000 yuan is considered reasonable for a white-collar position. Having a bachelor's degree is a plus, but even without a college diploma, it's acceptable. So, aiming for high wages at offline job fairs is the wrong approach. Additionally, even in large companies, not all positions offer high salaries. In any industry, regardless of company size or job position, there are generally 4 categories: technical, functional, business, and support. From the average perspective, technical roles are lucrative, with high entry barriers and high salaries. Functional roles are the least cost-effective, with high entry barriers and low salaries. Business roles have low entry barriers but high salaries, and successful individuals often emerge from this category. The final category, support services, has low entry barriers and low salaries but is the easiest. So, individuals should assess their job types to determine their direction for higher wages. Even if you join a large company and work in a core technical or business position with a high salary, most people won't make it to the management level. Therefore, by the age of 35, the salary ceiling is around 10,000 yuan to 20,000 yuan per month. Only industries like finance, the internet, and high-tech can break through this salary limit. This outlines the earning path for a wage earner. As a wage earner in China, even if you have a stable and respectable job within the system, the earnings remain similar. In lower-tier cities, the monthly salary for units on the outskirts is around 5,000 yuan. For top-tier cities, popular units don't exceed 20,000 yuan. Looking ahead to 2024, it's essential not to deceive yourself into thinking tomorrow, the day after, or next year will be better. New growth points are still far away. This is not pessimism, but a call to face reality. For private entrepreneurs seeking improvement in the coming year, it's crucial to understand what happened in the past, how it was resolved, how much time it took, and how much capability is needed. Evaluate whether next year will be better or worse with a pragmatic attitude. The economy will face a relatively challenging period in the next 5 years. This is a rational analysis because the current total social debt is several times China's GDP, and solving the issue of social debt won't happen within 5 years.